Hi everybody, Toni Reavis along with Josh Cox at Universal Studios. We've just got finished broadcasting the 2011 Women's World Championships Marathon from Daegu, South Korea. The Kenyans swept the podiums. Edna Kiplagat, Priska Jeptu, Sharon Cherop, the first time, Josh, that a country in the 13 World Championship editions has swept all podium positions. Are we surprised by this? We're not surprised by Edna Kiplagat, one of the favorites in the race, taking the title. But how about her countrywomen also filling those podium slots?
Anytime you have a team come together like the Kenyan athletes did today, it's rare. That's why you find relay world records are so hard to beat, because on that day, all the athletes came together. This is a similar thing where you have 3 out of the 5 Kenyan athletes all rising to the occasion and having their day of days and coming home with a medal.
You know, the Japanese have always done beautifully at the World Championships. The Chinese as well. The Chinese have won the last 2 World Cups. That is the competition for teams concurrent with the individual championship here in Daegu. The Chinese have won in Osaka 07 and in Berlin 09. The Japanese had done well, medaled in 8 of the previous 10 World Championships. And as you're saying, though, getting all the team in the same shape at the same time, especially since the Japanese and the Chinese essentially do train together as a team much of the time, and the Kenyans are very decentralized.
Right. The Kenyans all have their own training camp, their own coaches, their own agents. They're all on really different parts of the globe. You have Rosa's group that was splitting time between Italy and Kenya, and then you have Edna doing her thing over here in the U.S., and to have all of them come together on one day, it's the rarest of rare. And typically in World Cup marathoning, you have to break out the calculator and you're trying to total up the splits because it's aggregate time for the top 3. 3 out of the 5 score. Kind of like cross country where you have the top 5 scores, but here it's not place, it's time. So when you have a person way off the front that destroys the field by 2 minutes, that actually means something, which I love the aggregate time scoring. But here today, 1, 2, 3, Kenya, there's no math. We know who won.
You know, and oddly enough, one of the things we said historically about the Kenyan athletes, male or female, is that it's not the heat that bothered them, it's the humidity.
Right.
And the humidity was unbearable in Daegu today. The race started at 9 o'clock in the morning. The temperature was already 77 degrees, the humidity at 84%, with not a breath of air. I mean, that's like wearing extra clothing. That's like wearing a rubber suit.
Right.
And yet the race went out in that fashion. They were afraid of the conditions, and it was a well-placed fear.
It really was, and I think that's why we saw the slowest 5K, 10K, 15K, 20K, all the way, the slowest ever through 30K today ever in World Championship history, because of the oppressive heat and really the humidity, because that is the thing when you're training at altitude, like so many of these athletes do. I train in Mammoth Lakes. There's not a lick of humidity there. You may get some heat, maybe 85-degree day or something, but there's no humidity. And teaching yourself not only to run that pace, but teaching yourself how to cool yourself while you're out there. It's something physiologically that the body has to adapt to, the body has to be used to in order to run efficiently. And here you saw those fears play into the entire field. Nobody wanted to go.
Yeah, but after 30 kilometers, they ran a 16:44 5K from 30 to 35K. That split the pack up into the 4 finalists, as Aberu Kebede was the last of the Ethiopians to join our trio of Kenyans. And then a 16:11 5K from 35 to 40K spit Edna Kiplagat out. Got to remember, this is only her 5th career marathon. She ran one back in 2005 in Las Vegas. That was only a 2-hour and 50-minute effort. Really didn't count as a world-class marathon.
Right.
Her first attempt at the distance was really Los Angeles in March of 2010, where she set a 2:25 course record, won the gender bonus for $100,000 plus car plus $25,000 first place money.
Not a bad day at the office.
And then she went to New York City and won that race as well against the cream of the crop, Mary Keitany and Shalane Flanagan. Got 3rd behind Keitany and Shobakova at London at 2 hours and 20 minutes. She's continuing to get better and better, and this really puts her on as a gold medal favorite, one of the 2 or 3 gold medal favorites for London 2012. Well, also around 20 miles into the race, or 22 miles rather into the race, at a water stop, she tangled legs with Sharon Cherop, the last woman who was with her. Certainly nothing intentional, but they tangled legs, and Kiplagat went down. It wasn't just a stumble, trip up my hand down and steady myself. This was down hard on her knees, and it could have been a crippling injury.
It really could have been, but that's really a testament to how strong she is here. I think today and in these other races, we've seen how strong she is physically, but today we saw how strong she is mentally, which these long races, when you start getting beyond the half marathon, really, is where you have a lot of athletes, a lot of great 10K runners that can run the half marathon, blow the doors off guys. But when things start to go wrong and you have some bad patches, like you do in every marathon, even the best marathons, you're gonna have some bad patches, and this is a bad patch of bad patch when you go down on the ground like this. I mean, it's horrible. And she came back, she got up on her feet, and it was like it never happened. There was never any kind of indicator out there on the course that Edna had any type of fall.
You know, and it was actually Sharon Charop actually stopped and helped her friend and teammate up, and that's a testament as well. I didn't have a chance to tell the story on the broadcast, but there's only one incident that it reminds me of, and that was in 1961 at the Boston Marathon. Of course, I wasn't there, but John J. Kelly, the 1957 Boston Marathon champion, died last week at his home in Connecticut. 8-time National Marathon champion, Pan American Games champion, second 5 times at the Boston Marathon. We called him Young John to differentiate him from Old Kel, Johnny A. Kelly, who had won twice as well and was second 7 times. But Young John, the mentor to Amby Burfoot of Runner's World, who was then the college roommate to Bill Rogers. It's all tied together up there in New England. Well, in 1961 at Boston, at the 14-mile mark going through Wellesley, it was a 3-man race. Aino Oksanen, the 59 champion from Finland, was running with Jim Norris from Great Britain and John Kelly, and a black Labrador Retriever sort of got onto the course and was running with him for a little bit, and they didn't pay any attention. Next thing you know, it got right between Kel's legs. Young John went down. Jim Morris stopped to help the man up. Oksanen used the opportunity to bolt ahead and win the race. So, you mean,
right.
I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do, but anyway, we want to give a salute to John J. Kelly, the great American marathoner who really was, before the professional era, America's great marathoner of the 50s and early 60s. And of course, this being the Women's World Championship Marathon Day, another salute going out to the great Greta Weitz, the inaugural Women's World Champion in Helsinki, 1983.
They will be missed.
Now, next up, the Men's World Championship follows in 1 week's time. Josh, what do you think the men will have learned from the women's experience?
You know, if the weather holds and it's the same kind of conditions, I think you're going to see the same type of race kind of play out. Maybe not as slow. I would doubt that it would be as slow. Men have a tendency to maybe wait around for 10 or 15K before they go, okay, somebody ends up thinking, I can run faster than this.
The favorite in the field is Gebre Gebremariam from Ethiopia. He's the winner last year's ING New York City Marathon. Vincent Kipruto, one of the great Kenyan stars, also will be a factor. And after that race, we will do another wrap-up from here at Universal Studios. Till then, for Josh Cox, Toni Reavis, thanks for joining us.